Well, welcome everybody. This is season 1, episode 16 of Bridging Generations with Howard Snooks, and I am Howard. And my guest today is Ariela HaLevi. And I've met Ariela before. I've actually been a guest on her podcast before. And I also know part of her family. I know her husband, Baruch, and I also know Yuda, who's her son. So I sort of feel like I'm, getting to know the family.
You're part of the family, Howard.
So I always start with a dad joke. So here's my dad joke of the day. What did the horse say after he tripped?
What did he say?
He said, "Help, I've fallen and I can't giddy up."
God, that was a dad joke. I love it.
Okay, so we've set the stage.
We're ready.
Ariela, I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you.
And we're going to talk about bridging generations as a theme, and that mostly turns into mentors, people that have helped you along the way, and people that have also perhaps been difficult for you. And this is a landmark episode for me because I've left the manosphere and now I have my first woman guest, and I'm really happy about that. I didn't want to get into that. I mean, it's not like I have some horrible thing about men helping men or doing things with men, but I just wanted to have it be more open than that. And so,
well, I thank you, and it's a pleasure and honor to be your first woman on your podcast.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to turn the mic over to you a little, Ariela, to just sort of give people, some of your background, so they get to know who you are.
Yeah. We were talking about my social work background, and that feels like a long time ago, but that is something that I pursued a master's in social work out of college. And, I guess really my story is not necessarily educational, but more, I believe in like living our soul purpose. Right. And so I kind of look at my story as someone who has been asleep to her soul purpose, and then someone who woke up. I woke up at an early age. But I think that my biggest wake up to living my soul's calling or my purpose in life. And, you talk a lot about mentors. I think that my mother really was the catalyst who kind of woke me up, and she didn't even mean to.
Oh, let's hear that story.
Okay. I was in my early 20s, and I think I was still in college at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. And I grew up Jewish, but not really aware, no real interest. I was kind of just like lost and not really interested in much, honestly. And she had a bat mitzvah, which is like a rite of passage for a 13-year-old. But
she did it as an adult.
She was about 40. And again, I was pretty lost and angry and not interested in this idea of spirituality and Judaism and pretty much anything. And so she had a big group celebration, and I was up in the front row and watching her. And she was praying and doing the rituals. And I just sat there and I sobbed. And it wasn't like, it wasn't like hard sobs. It was just like these tears that wouldn't stop. And for me, it was a profound, life-changing moment. My life has never been the same since that moment.
Sort of like a crack opened up.
It was a cracking. It was definitely, it changed the trajectory of my life. I attribute my mom's awakening to my marrying my husband, who at the time was studying to be a rabbi. I think of that moment as a catalyst to finding my soul's purpose. I was going down this road, and then I sat there in the front row, and it was I believe in God, spirit, source, love, whatever you want to call it. It was as if something took me by the shoulders and said, no, actually, you're going this way.
And it was a big surprise. That's what I picked up, was like, what am I doing crying here?
Yes, it was total shock. And
for your mom too?
Yes, it was. She didn't know that she was influencing me in that way. And she just kind of pulled me in, and she also found her meaning at later in life, much later than I'm probably in her early 40s. And it changed everything. I started going to a very spiritual synagogue in Los Angeles. And it's ultimately where I met my husband. He was studying to be a rabbi, and I was a congregant, and we met, and 3 months later we were engaged, and
Your eyes locked.
our eyes locked. And I mean, kind of.
Yeah. 3 months.
Yeah, it was just like, I mean, I believe that there's a part of us I call the soul, the knowing part that is smarter than our head. And it just knew. It knew. And it's the same thing I felt when I had children or when I had different choices to make in life. I try not to use my mind. I try and use my heart as much as possible. And that's really what I teach other people too. So my mom was my first mentor. She's on the other side. She died about 8 years ago.
I remember you telling me.
Yeah. And so I think she would be happy to know that. Yeah.
I had a friend who, she was an adult, and she did her bat mitzvah as well as an adult. Mm-hmm. And I remember her saying at the time that, it's sort of like the boys always had their bar mitzvahs, but the women didn't necessarily have bat mitzvahs.
Right.
And so this was like a movement to increase the number of women who had bat mitzvahs. Yeah. And is that similar with your mother?
Yeah, I think so, especially at that time. It was a long time ago, and I think it was rare. And then to do it in a group with I think that was also rare. And it was really special for her. A couple of her friends reached out to me recently, and we were talking about it, and because they did it with her. And so for sure, I mean, in the religious world, it's almost always boys and then girls do something different. Mm-hmm. In the non-religious world, which is what we were in, it was still new. Now it's not as new. Girls and boys do it. But it was really like my first kind of something greater than me tapping me on the shoulder saying, you also don't want to keep going down the road you're going. It's not a good idea, Ariela.
Well, okay. So what was the road you were going down?
I mean, my husband always says to me, like, it wasn't such a bad road. I wasn't doing horrible things. My parents were divorced when I was 13, and a lot of parents get divorced. I definitely had some early life trauma, and I always just felt like I love my parents, but I always felt like, how did I get dropped in here? Like I kind of just
are these people?
Yeah,
like,
even though like
really my family.
I love them. I always felt like a black sheep.
Huh.
And I was kind of the pushy one, even though I was kind. And you said to me before we got on, your husband's so strong and you're kind of more feminine. And so that's a whole other conversation. But I would say there's a piece of me that's not as soft as I come off.
Well, see that, but I don't think of being feminine as being strong, weak, and men being strong. I think of it as different things.
That is true. That is true. But I think I kind of grew up feeling like I wasn't good enough and I wasn't smart enough. And I did feel like I lacked that mentorship of someone saying like, you're so wonderful, you're so amazing, you can do anything in this world. I think I partly because I shut it down and partly like I was angry and I was not interested in a mentor, not interested in what my parents had to say. I was going to do it my way. And I think they did the best they could with me. I think I grew up, I uncovered a long time ago in my childhood a wound that was just nobody was able to fill, including myself. And there was this piece of me that was like, this isn't why I'm here. I'm not meant to be here to play small. And I think I really like the anger that I had growing up was like this piece of me that knew, like, what are you doing? Right? And why are we going down this road? And I was pretty lost and choosing the wrong people. And
were you running with a bad crowd?
I wasn't running with a bad crowd. I was running with people that maybe didn't believe in me. And I was,
interesting.
if you put yourself down enough, then you surround
Yeah.
yourself with that.
Oh,
And there was just like this hole inside of me. And it was like, I don't know if you remember, there was a Dr. Seuss book. I was just talking about this with a friend, and I think it's called Are You My Mama? Do you remember that book?
Are You My Mother? Well,
Yeah.
I didn't know it was a Dr. Seuss book. I do
think so.
remember a book called Are You My Mother? And this little bird is going around
Yes.
to backhoes and
Yes.
all sorts of
Trucks
things.
and
I don't think that's a
cranes and-
Dr. Seuss book. But
Oh,
my
I thought
kids,
it was.
I
I'm gonna look
remember
that
with
up.
my kids, I read that. They love that book.
I know. I love that book. And it reminded me of how I felt, right? It's nothing that I could blame anybody for. And I love both of my parents. I love my grandparents. It was more of this like calling. It was me, right? Like I wasn't searching for my mom. I had a great mom. I was searching for myself.
Mhm.
And I was searching for something to fill that hole that I felt was like, who's going to fill that? Where's my mama? Right? That like inner hole. How could I fill that up? And quite honestly, it wasn't until I sat in the front row. I mean, thank goodness I was only in my early 20s, so I found it pretty fast. But I sat in that front row of my mom's bat mitzvah, and I think I filled it with myself and with, there's no other lack of terms. And I know this isn't a podcast about God, but like it was something greater than myself, literally was like, you can't keep looking outside of yourself for something that is going to make you feel better about yourself.
Well, a spiritual quest often involves mentorships, and like God's my
God
mentor.
is my
mentor.
I mean, ultimately, that's it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. And so I found that, and my whole life changed, and how I felt inside of myself, most of all, changed.
Well, I think I know the answer to this question, but did your relationship to your mother change then after the bat mitzvah?
Yes, very much so. And we had this for a long while. We had a beautiful spiritual path together. I really attribute meeting my husband, who is the love of my life, to my mom. I remember she would come with me to synagogue, and it was so much fun going with her. And I would point out, there's that guy, and she was just like a part of it. And we really, for a long time, we shared spirituality, and we shared this like very beautiful relationship. She introduced me to all this beautiful music, spiritual music, and she's really my catalyst. She was, unfortunately she got sick, and I feel like she shut a lot of it down. She was scared, and it was a scary time. And
well, isn't that the time when you had moved to Israel?
She was sick a little bit. She got diagnosed before we moved, and then got much worse.
So you had to go back and forth.
So I was going back and forth, especially the last year of her life. I went back and forth, and it was like an 18-hour flight. And I was going back and forth. I had this deep commitment that no matter what would happen, I promised myself that I would try to be there for her death. And we ended up moving back. And she actually passed away maybe a month after I moved back.
I remember that.
Yeah.
How about, like, you weren't the only child? There are other...
I have a sister.
You have a sister?
3 years younger.
3 years younger?
Yeah.
No, is she in California?
Yeah. So my whole family is there. My dad and my stepmom and my sister, my nephew, my aunt. Yeah. But I'm a Colorado girl.
And you may be moving. Didn't you tell me you might be moving?
Yes. So we are moving, and hopefully soon, near Boulder.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah.
Well, I learned something recently, and I did not have any idea. Boulder's almost 30% Jewish.
I learned that too.
Isn't that just amazing?
Yes. In fact, I'll tell you, Howard, maybe a different conversation, but one of my dreams of moving here is to start a Kabbalistic community. And my husband and I have built two Jewish communities together. And, we were the head of two congregations for 18 years. And we left that world completely. We moved to Israel, but we just left it at the top of the game. We walked away from it. And my dream of moving to Boulder is to really start, and we're already starting. we do monthly experiences with people. And so I'm slowly starting this baby that I'm birthing.
Well, I'm not Jewish, although people often
but you can still
think
come.
I'm Jewish.
It's for everybody.
But I had a girlfriend for a while, and she was in a Kabbalistic community here in Boulder.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, Boulder is the place.
I was just on the edges, but at least I became aware of what that meant, what a Kabbalistic community meant. And some of it was really, really interesting.
I mean, it's really my husband always says we're kind of like spiritual mutts, right? We're very eclectic, and I really gather my spirituality from all things. Mm-hmm. But a Kabbalistic community, Kabbalah is universal. It's oneness. Mm-hmm. And so my goal, my dream is to build a community based on that, and that all people can be together and we can all be one and share meals and share inspiration and love and community and friendship. And so that's really my baby, and it's why we're moving to Boulder.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
To Boulder.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've been here almost 50 years now.
That's amazing.
And my great-great-great-grandparents came here in 1859. So.
Oh my goodness! So you're really rooted here.
Mm-hmm. Well, they call it Niwat's curse. They moved. They had a ranch north of Erie, where Erie is now. Mm-hmm. And then they moved to Fort Morgan for a reason I don't really understand. And then their daughter married, before they moved to Fort Morgan, their daughter married this Danish immigrant, and they went down to southwestern Colorado to the Durango area. Yeah. And so that's where I grew up. And my grandmothers were both Catholics, but they both deliberately left they left the church. Wow. They didn't just fade away. They said
they were done.
And so I grew up a Presbyterian. Okay. And then when I married, I became an Episcopalian.
Wow.
So my journey is not a deeply spiritual one in that sense of going to church and stuff, but I have my own spiritual journey as well, like everyone I think should have.
Like a personal journey?
A personal journey.
A personal spirituality.
Yes.
I mean, I think, we talk a lot about religion or the God of these four walls. Mm-hmm. And I think my journey also, even though I've been a part of that, is very deeply personal. I mean, I think I think sometimes people feel like God is a bad word. And I feel like I just wrote a blog on that. Like God is, to me, is like my partner, like before everybody else. Like it's what I connect. It's who I connect to in the morning when I wake up, and who I talk to before I go to bed, and who I journey with on my drive over to Boulder. And for me, it's a very deeply personal relationship that I have that, was introduced to me in my 20s and like has only grown. It's matured. It's comes before everything.
Well, you and B both kind of, there's a similarity to this.
There is.
This journey that you have with that, it seems like to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about, like what you're saying is you and B have been mentors yourselves for a lot of people.
Definitely.
And the mentors that you have experienced, like the two of you are mentors to each other, it seems like to me.
Yeah.
But are there any others you can point to now? Like it seems like your mother, what would you call it? Not inspiration, but just like the universe opening up, the awakening.
Yeah.
That served as a purpose for you in that regard. Is there anyone else who comes up, or someone who might made it hard for you, like your peer group? If you were being bullied by your peer group, that's a hard thing to overcome.
Yeah, for sure. I think I've had people that have pushed me in my life, like so not negatively, but definitely. And I'm looking back into my mentors. Well, this might sound weird. I mean, not for me, maybe for you.
Go for it.
Nothing's weird to me. I've had mentors that are not living, actually, that like deep books that I've read.
No, I totally understand.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I don't know if you've heard of Saint Teresa of Avila.
Well, tell me some. I've heard of her, but I'm not
Okay.
well versed.
She was alive during the Spanish Inquisition, and she was Jewish. And I don't think she was forced to convert. I think she converted on her own out of safety, for just her own physical safety. And she's a lot of her books have been translated into English. They're all in a lot of them are in Spanish. But I read a couple of books by her, about her, and then by her. And she's a powerful woman that really connected to the divine in a very deep way. It was like, Rumi, the poet Rumi.
Yes,
That's
I do.
another mentor of mine too.
He's one of my mentors.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
She's similar, where it's like this beauty that comes out of them. Right. And you can only describe it as something very deeply spiritual. They must be connected in some way that not everybody is. And so Teresa of Avila, she was spicy. Like she was feminine, but she was a go-getter. And
Spanish women.
Yeah, she was no joke. And I like that. But she also, she had this relationship with the divine that wasn't religious. And it was very much like, she has a whole book about how to go into the inner parts of your heart. She calls it the castles of your heart. And how every time you go into a castle, you learn something about yourself, how you are in relationships, how you are, what's the voice in your head? How do you speak to others? How do you speak to yourself? And she was really about looking at yourself to better the world.
And it's kind of a practical approach in a way.
I think it really is.
Yeah.
I think it is.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have heard of this or not, but this area of Colorado and southern Colorado, it started as a part of Mexico. And during the Spanish Inquisition, many people escaped to Mexico. Jewish people who hid their Jewish Judy.
Yeah.
And so there are many families in southern Colorado, in like the San Luis area. They're actually Jewish, and their tombstones have the Jewish symbols and stuff.
Wow.
And the children remember these sort of odd rituals that they would do that were hidden, but they had to keep it a secret.
Yes.
So I just think that's such an interesting part of
fascinating.
This Western,
yeah,
part of this Western saga is there's these Jewish immigrants who came in from Spain, from the Inquisition.
And they have such interesting rituals, right? Like I love everything ancestral. And my dad does he's done for the entire family genealogy. I'm
the guy in my family.
You are. You should have a conversation. My dad he was a history teacher, and then he was in the insurance business, and then he retired, and he's just done all genealogy. So I have a big book at home. And it's been fascinating to, you go in and you see all of the rituals and all of the things that people did in hiding. Right. And you start to piece together. I mean, part of what I do for work is ancestral healing.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Say a little bit about that.
Okay. I will. I think I probably got it from my father. I have a fascination with why people behave the way they do, and why they act, and why they make decisions, and why this hurts one person and doesn't hurt the other, and being a sensitive person. And wondering, how did I choose these things, or why did these things happen? I have looked at my ancestry to give me answers. And, part of the training that I've done is ancestral healing. And simply that means that if you are who you are here, but your DNA tells us that you've come from many, many decades of, eons of people. Centuries of people. And that they make up some of why you do what you do. So if alcoholism runs in your family, let's say, well, who else has a pattern of alcoholism or addiction? And when you dive in, like I did, a lot of my dad's side of the family are alcoholics, or my mom's side, a lot of them have thyroid issues, like hypothyroid.
Huh.
So what I do is I think about when I work with somebody, well, what does having thyroid issues mean? And thyroid issues often means that you're not using your voice. More often than not, when I work with women with thyroid or autoimmune issues, they're invisible to themselves or others. They feel like they can't speak their truth. They're scared of what other people think. In my family, that's classic. Like, as far as I can see.
But you rebelled against that early on.
I was a rebel.
Okay. All right.
But I was determined not to pass that down to my children, right? I was determined to do this differently. So what I do in work is that I'm very intuitive, and I can see where there have been traumas and wounds down your line. And if you came to me and told me, Ariela, I have this behavior or pattern or this one thing I just can't get over in this lifetime, I would ask you, where do we think it comes from? And we would explore we would do a little open-eyed genealogy work, right? And we would look at psychological and spiritual patterns. All of our families we've all come from war, famine, starvation, just like people didn't live the way we live now, as you know. That creates a lot of survival, a lot of addiction, I'm very sensitive to the Holocaust. Every Jewish woman I work with, 99% of Jewish women that I work with have some sort of anxiety. They live in their heads because their body isn't safe. You name it, there's a lot. And when we trace it back, it's often either collective or individual Holocaust, some sort of pogrom, some sort of destruction against Jewish people. But I work with all types of people. When we work together, we see that there's patterns here that aren't ours. The study of epigenetics.
I was just going to bring up epigenetics. Yeah.
The study of epigenetics is incredible because you have DNA that says that you could inherit cancer, but do we have to? Right? Can we heal on a psychological and emotional level in order to perhaps be healthier?
And as well, the other part of epigenetics is traumatic events in a grandparent can affect your DNA.
Exactly.
Which is I just think that is mind-blowing.
Totally. And if you know that, right, if you can sense or know the history of your family, and you might be only able to go down to your great-grandparents, but that's enough to intuit. I always talk about a spiritual genealogy or a psychological genealogy or family tree, right? Like, so if you can intuit that, you listen to the family stories, and they're not just stories, they're a map for us to live. And so sometimes we gather the rituals of how we grew up, and we remember, like, wow, my grandmother did this, I'm going to do that too, right? And then other times the choice is to not have that passed down, whatever that is, right? My grandmother had a really hard time using her voice. She was a wonderful, stubborn woman. I love her. But I want to use my voice, right? I saw what it did to her, and I want to change that for my kids. And in the spiritual world, we say that you can change 7 generations down your line by doing deep ancestral work.
Oh, the seventh son of the seventh son sort of comes to my mind.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a little vignette here to tell you.
Okay.
Since you've been talking about this.
Yeah.
So I was the guy who started the genealogy study in my family. Both sides were these ancient pioneer families that came to Colorado years ago.
Yeah.
And I asked my aunt, I guess, one time, well, where did, the Steele family come from? That's my mother's side. She says, well, we've always been here. Well, that can't be true.
That is true.
So I traced, I found that out.
Yeah.
And my father was somewhat reluctant about my interest in this. I said, well, where did our family come from? And this was down in Durango. He says, Well, they were up by Longmont somewhere, sort of like, he vaguely knew, but he seemed reluctant about it. And I found out that my great-great-great-grandfather, who came here in 1859 and was this very cool guy, there's all these records of him in the early Colorado history, these biographies of him and stuff, because he committed suicide. And I told B about this too, because you know how significant that is.
Of course.
And it was sort of a weird story. Like the obituary said that he and his son were walking around the ranch, and he'd had a heat stroke or something, and his son was encouraging him, things will be fine. And he took out a penknife and stabbed himself in the belly. Which, is that true? Or, like, is that really what happened? But he died of peritonitis.
Wow.
And then his son, the youngest, there were 9 children in the family, his youngest son got embroiled in a scandal. He was a state legislator and was going to be vice governor, or whatever they call it, or he was going to run for that. And there's this gold mine scandal that he was involved in. And at the same time, his wife was divorcing him, and he lost custody of his son. And he drank poison. And so it was a front page news about this guy who called his attorney from the Brown Palace Hotel saying, I have just drunk this poison, come and find my body. So there were 2 suicides. And so my dad, meanwhile, lives to be 93 and finally starts telling stories of his life. And he goes, you know, I didn't really want you to know about all this. It's so embarrassing. It's so shameful that he committed suicide. And I thought, that's his great-great-grandfather. So it's not like it's that close, but still there's this, it was just this stain upon the family.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And also, I mean, a lot, you know, they weren't psychologically aware as we have found today, that we have this awareness. And I think a lot of those types of suicides, or like you said, your great-great-great-grandfather died and stuck a pen inside of him in front of his son.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine? Like, those aren't stories. Like, that actually happened to a son, saw his father kill himself.
Yeah.
To me, so if I were working with you, intuitively, we would go back to that time and we would see if there was any healing to be done intuitively, because that's what I do. And for lack of better terms, like, we would talk to them and we would see if this is a whole other story, but this is the shamanic work that I do, is that everything is energy. And if things are shut down and shadowed, then... And
shadowed. Say more. Like, I don't want to stop your story, but I want to know more about shadow.
Well, if things are shadowed, then your father didn't want to talk about those things. He wanted, most likely, because those were the times, you put those things in a box. But where do those things go? They're not in a box over here. They're in a box inside of us.
So the shadow, so what exactly does the shadow mean?
So the shadow is a piece of us or our ancestry. Typically the shadow is the dirty family secret.
Okay, so it's the bad thing that is sort of hidden. Okay,
it's the stuff we keep hidden. Okay. So everybody thinks we're this way, but who are we really? Like, what we have a beautiful light, and Kabbalists believe that, like, we also have a shadow part. Now that light can overcome the dark if we are willing to see and acknowledge the darkness. For example, the man in your family, the great-great-great-grandfather who committed suicide in front of his son, I can only imagine what that did to that son, right? And what psychological trauma it is to watch your father kill himself.
And I'll bet there was a stiff upper lip component to it.
Yeah, we don't talk about it. Be a big boy, be a man, right? And we just pack it in. And quite honestly, a lot of men do. They become successful outwardly. And then this is my husband's work, as you know, and like inwardly, they are dying, or they feel alone, or they feel like a not successful, because once you release your work, who are you? If you don't know who you are,
Yeah.
Scary in there.
Yeah, that's the theme on B's book launch
It
that's
is.
happening later this
It is.
evening.
Yeah.
So let's talk about you and your husband, because
Okay.
because I think I'm really glad I've met both of you. I just think
Mhm.
you're both such interesting people.
Thank you.
And there's a real aliveness to both of you and a real connection
Thank
clearly between the two of you. So, and I think I did say, like, well, you seem very feminine to me, and he's this very masculine guy, I would say.
Yeah.
So I always think those are interesting. And I don't mean strong and weak when I'm talking about that. I'm just talking about so what's the secret to the success of this marriage?
That's an interesting question. Some of it is just like this knowing, but it's more than a knowing that we are meant to be together. That was the initial reason why we came together. Quite honestly, what I love about us is that we're committed. Like, we really, we've been through a lot. His dad's suicide, and we moved our family to Israel, and all of that had implications.
And you have 4 children.
We have 4 children. And so we always tell the kids, even though we moved around a lot, we are your stability. We work on our marriage. It's not always work. It's mostly really beautiful, but we also are committed to improving our communication style and being each other's rock when we can't, when one is, flailing around, the other one is stable, and vice versa. And when I look at him, like, I feel like we've been together before. It feels like, forever. And it feels like when we pass on, we won't, we'll continue down that road. And I don't believe that, I guess we're talking about soulmates, but, he'll laugh when I say this, but my dog is my soulmate too. Like, I know that my dog.
I know. My dog also, it's been dead 5 years now.
It's so hard. I know, mine's 11, and I'm seeing these like cognitive things, but I know that he's been with me, and I know that my children are my soulmates too. And but for B and I would say the one thing that I love about him is his commitment to me, and that he shows up for me no matter what. That no matter what, he comes back all the time. He's always coming back to me. And that is, we kind of defy the odds. Like, we both spent, a lot of our family's divorced, and he's had such trauma with his father. And there's just this, like, no matter what happens, we have each other's back. There's a part of him that I see that nobody else sees, that he's starting to show. And, I think for a long time he had to think he had to be the alpha. Yeah. And now I see a softer side, and I encourage him to show his softer side. And for me, I think for, the way that I grew up, or the way that I didn't believe in myself growing up, was I have to be careful, or I have to hide. And so he just keeps on encouraging me to, like, I'm really not meek at all, as you probably see, like, really show yourself, like, show who I am. And he's been my number one cheerleader in that. So
that sounds like empathy to me. Like, you both really have a real empathic connection. You deeply understand one another.
Yeah. And I would say also, like, we are deeply committed to our kids. Like, I see the 6 of us, and, they're getting older. They have serious relationships, and I know that they have to go and do their thing. But there's something about having these 4 kids that, and I guess, and there's like something that my soul longed for when I was younger. And it was like to have a beautiful family. It's like I came here to do that with a partner that believed in the same thing. And so Baruch and I share the same values. And, like, we have such a serious commitment to, in fact, we moved back from Israel to make sure our kids were stable, because some of them weren't. And we feel like we've just been keeping this eye on our kids to make sure that they are stable.
And you had the children in a fairly brief period of time, didn't you? Your 4 kids are not that far apart.
They're each 3 years apart.
3 years apart.
Yeah, he's busy.
Mm-hmm. And Yuda is what?
23. He's the oldest.
He's the eldest. Mm-hmm. He's the only one I've met, but he is such a cool guy.
Oh, you'll meet them all tonight at the book launch.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Very
yeah.
Good. All right.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. I mean, we have a serious commitment to our children.
Well, in the book that he wrote, he mentioned this at the end of the book. He mentioned this story where the two of you had an argument and you were going, I think, to visit relatives or something.
I don't even remember that.
And you fought and you said, you said, I'm going, and you just go do whatever else you want to do. And so he goes up and is hiking in the mountains and gets lost, and then has this sort of insight, that comes from getting lost. So it was a really strengthening experience. And it talked about he changed. There's something that changed for him about that. Mm-hmm. So I thought those are examples of, I don't know. It's like, it's not everything has to be smooth and harmonious. The disharmony really can result in great growth and insight.
Absolutely. I think that for us, it's definitely not always harmonious. Mm-hmm. I think our base is always solid, right? Like we have always we've always, like, we go like this sometimes, but our base is always consistent. But for sure, we've had to go through extremely hard times. But there's something, I think that it is commitment and values. We've just, like, when we first got together, we just had this, it's like I was waiting for him, and like when I found him, it was like, it just all fit. And yes, I loved him and I felt like I knew him, but mostly it was like these shared values. Like, this is our commitment to our values, and nothing has ever changed. It's changed in its form. Right. But the actual values have never changed. And I think that's what keeps us very strong. And then also he maybe not everybody sees it, but like, he's really funny.
No, I agree.
We just have fun together. Yeah. I mean, he's just really inappropriate. And so am I. And I just like to tell it like it is. And he does too. And it definitely gets us in trouble. But, my kids always say that we're inappropriate, but like,
they're whatever. Cringe. You're cringe
not
parents.
Not cringe parents, but more of like tell it like it is parents. And their friends' parents aren't like that, but we are. My daughter just had a big thing happen this past weekend, and I just sat her down and I was like, I didn't say this, but my goal is to do it differently than my ancestors did it. Right. That, like, I'm so obsessed with ancestry, probably because my dad was, but like, I know that they didn't have always good communication because they were in war and they were starving, or they were penniless, whatever was going on back then. Communication was not at the top of the list. And for whatever reason, I feel like I've been tasked in this lifetime with like very clear, honest communication. And so I sit my daughter down and I'm like, these are the things that are like, tell me how you feel. And these are the things that are happening. And I'm just really honest with the kids. And we all have thank God, like we have a really honest, open policy in our house. Like, you can say and feel what you need to feel, but we're not going to just like, we're not going to abuse each other, but we're going to talk about it. We're going to get through it.
Process it.
Yeah, we process it. We also,
you have some of your MSW background stuff.
I do. I pull that out sometimes. I've also had like 10 million trainings and all of this too.
That's something we have in common because I have my MSW and PhD in social work.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, part of my questioning about this is a personal one, because I was married for 34 years and thought I had a wonderful marriage, and it just came crashing. It just crashed in one afternoon.
So crumbling.
And it was just like, holy smoke, how did I miss this? And then you get the stereotype, well, men never understand. They never know. They are not reading the signs. But I just don't think that that's true necessarily.
Do you still feel like, how did I miss it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, nothing that I said is probably different than how you felt.
Exactly. I thought
Right?
we had this great connection.
I mean, that's where I wonder if there is like, I don't know how spiritual you are, but like, I feel like there must be something bigger at play.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing is set in stone forever and ever and ever, and we all have to work on it, and we all have to pray
Mm-hmm.
I pray every day that like my marriage is flourishing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think sometimes, like, for whatever reason, we're down this road and we go this road.
Well, I'm sort of especially sensitized to it now because it's been 10 years, the 10-year anniversary.
Yeah.
But I know one thing that happened was she went through this very serious health crisis where at the age of 49, and she's a super jock, athletic person, had a heart attack.
Wow.
And she ended up having stents put in. And then in the rehab, she got worse and worse in the rehab and had to have emergency triple bypass surgery.
Wow.
And it was really a life and death situation. And
Yeah.
that changed our relationship.
Yeah.
And,
sure.
part of it, I think, I don't know if this was selfish or not, is like, man, everything is about her now.
Mhm.
Everything is about her and her health. And
Yeah.
panicked all the time. I'd have to take her to the emergency room at least once a month for years because she
Wow.
was afraid she was having another heart. And
Ugh.
I think something just really shifted for her about that. And it really changed her
Life-changing.
ability to remember that she loved me. That's what it seemed like to me. She forgot that she loved me. That's what
Wow.
it felt like to me.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense,
Mhm.
right? Like, to have such a life or death
Mhm.
situation,
Mm-hmm.
it does change you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it feels like it changed the trajectory of your relationship. And some people move through that, and maybe she changed so much and the relationship changed so much for her that she wasn't the same person.
She wasn't the same person.
I think it's also like, I think about that, I'm 54, so I'm not old, but I'm midlife for sure.
Sure.
And I think about my mom, and she was diagnosed and she had cancer for like 7 or 8 years. No, maybe 6, 7 years. And, her marriage changed, and it becomes caregiver.
Did she remarry after she divorced?
She remarried after. Yeah, they both remarried. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched her marriage change, and it's not easy. And I mean, it's like, it does change the trajectory of the relationship for sure. Well,
we're kind of getting to the end here
already.
But I love getting the story about your marriage because, like I said, I have a particular interest in marriages that are successful.
Yeah.
But also, it's a lovely story, I think. And
Yeah.
your marriage has changed as well.
Yeah.
But it's changed in keeping with what's happening.
Right.
You're riding the wave, I guess you might say.
Yeah. I'll just end with, like, I think the majority of the change has been, I've had a very steady, consistent relationship with the divine for many years, and it's grown and grown and grown. And I think that my husband would say that he was a rabbi for 18 years and never felt God.
Yeah.
And
he's expressed that in his book.
And now he does. And I think he's a better man for it. And I think that's part of this masculine, feminine. I don't know. I mean, you can be a hard feminine. I think that what comes between us is the divine. And when we both now, I mean, I was kind of on my own path for a long time, just kind of waiting to see if he'd come around to this path of the divine path, because that's how we started our marriage. And I think the greatest gift has been that there's something more than us and our issues and the things we struggle with. There's God in between us. And that's not religious. That's just like the love of the divine. And it's so personal and so deep. And he's found that again, or maybe for the first time. So yes, our relationship goes through a lot of different things and hardships, but I would say that's the one steady for both of us now as well.
What a nice ending to a wonderful discussion. Thank you so much, Ariela.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was great talking to you.
My pleasure.
Thank you.